West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, and with me as ever is Father Santokie. Santokie, how you doing?
I'm good, Mash. I'm good. I got a bone of contention with you though. As Father Santokie, Monday night, I was getting the baby ready to sleep late night. I thought, you know what? Let me tune into Monday Night Mash. Check out the live show, fam. When I saw Mash tarnish the good name of tap water, as someone who leads as a lifetime drinker of tap water, I thought, you know what? Mash has gone bougie, bruv. Celebrity Fame's hit Mash. He said Evian bottle only, no tap water. So I'm here, to just say, firstly, the Mash's views do not reflect the views of Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We're out here drinking tap water. We're a podcast for the people.
you and Neeks, one piece of tap water at a time, man. Listen, Santokie. Just a few days ago, West Indies wrapped up a clean sweep of Bangladesh in the ODI series. Our first series win against Bangladesh in, I think it was 10 years, they said? Yeah. Our first series ODI series win against them in 10 years. And crucial, critical ranking points as West Indies try to get themselves into a position by 2027 where we wouldn't have to go through the World Cup qualifiers. Now, in and of itself, it's obviously positive, right? We've won 3-0. We rarely sweep anybody in ODI cricket. And given literally 18 months ago, we were destroyed in essence in the World Cup qualifiers, it's quite the turnaround for the ODI team under Darren Sammy. The record for the year stands at played 12, 6 wins, 6 losses, 3-0 defeat at the start of the year in Australia, 2-1 defeat in Sri Lanka a couple of months back, 2-1 win over England, and we end the year with a 3-0 win over Bangladesh. So that I say that, Santokie, because that's effectively where I want you to start. How do you view the Bangladesh series? One, first and foremost, in and of itself, just as a series, but then also two, in the wider context of West Indies ODI cricket.
Yeah, to be fair, it's promising, as you said. Bangladesh, we haven't beaten Bangladesh in 10 years, so it's not as if the argument can be put forward, it's only Bangladesh. ODI cricket is Bangladesh's strongest format. They do well at ICC tournaments in that format, so they're not to be considered lightly. So I think it's promising on that front. I think looking at the series as a microcosm, the fact that we won 3-0 as well, we didn't let our guard down in the final ODI. We were clinical. When Bangladesh posted 3-2-1, it would have been easy for a lot of players to drop their heads and be like, you know what? We won the series 2-0. Like, we don't have the extra motivation. I think, thirdly, the emergence of players. We've not seen it in ODI cricket for a while. We saw Shai Hope emerging as an ODI. Building on what he's done in previous series. Casey Carty putting up the runs, and then Amir Jangu with a blistering century in that last ODI. So it's also promising as well. Not only are we relying on, because it could have been easy for Hope to score a century in all 3 ODIs and be like, okay, cool, this is Hope's series. But the fact we've got new players, younger players emerging, the format is promising. And lastly, Mash, I think the fact that we went, 5 years without winning an ODI series home and away, there's only so much Darren Sammy can turn over in a short space of time. I mean, it's still been relatively, how long since he's taken over? A year and a half? Just over a year and a half. So for us to have a formidable home record at the moment means he's building blocks. I wouldn't expect him to have changed things around so drastically that we're beating Australia in Australia, beating Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. Firstly, as you said, we've got to keep on winning series and matches so we build the ranking points, qualify for the next World Cup directly. That would be the ultimate aim. But I think there are signs of promise. And me and you have lived through it, Mash. When ODI cricket has been on a seemingly terminal decline for so many years, I think we should celebrate this slight upward trajectory in West Indies ODI cricket at the moment. And as I said, the emergence of a few new players coming through. Because if someone had said to you a year ago, Shai Hope would be player of the series in the ODI series, you wouldn't believe it. Similarly, if they said Amir Jangu would hit an 80-ball century in an international, you wouldn't believe it. So we are seeing players emerge. So it is very promising on my front. But I'm not going to say it's a complete success. There is a lot of work to be done and built on in 2025. What are your thoughts on our performances in the format and where we are generally?
Yeah, do you know, I'm glad you kind of went first and gave your synopsis, because I think if I'd gone first, it would have been too easy for me to default to we're supposed to beat Bangladesh. And there is a part of me which still feels somewhere deep in which is like, yeah, but we're supposed to beat Bangladesh. But then you're right, Santokie. ODI is their strongest format. Or some will say maybe Test cricket since they beat Pakistan, they've drawn with us, etc., etc. But ODI historically has been, over the last few years, their better format or their best format. So we shouldn't take it lightly, and we should applaud the coaching staff, the players, on what was because it was a comprehensive clean sweep. It wasn't like it was, oh, we just got over the line. Each match was effectively a comprehensive win. And as you say, Carty has improved his game this year. I looked at the stats for 2024. Let me just pull them again. Carty scored 560 runs this year, played all 12 matches, 560 runs at an average of 62 and a strike rate of 88. Given in his first few years in the team, he was striking at 60, like 64 or something ridiculous like that. We've seen players like Carty improve their game. Shafane Rutherford's got 550s and 1 century in his first, 9 at-bats for the West Indies in this format. So he has established himself this year, having got into the team. Evan Lewis has come back into the mix. He got his 284 runs at an average of 57, strike rate of 115. And I think that point you made about Shai is critical. Shai scored some runs this year, but we didn't have to. Traditionally, with our ODI team, it's been hope and prayers. And Hope obviously scored, I think, 80 odd in that first ODI, but he didn't have to perform for us to win some matches. And for me, this is the next step of the West Indies ODI development. It's not just win some matches, it's win matches without Shai Hope having to do anything. And that's been critical for me. Just on the Django point, and we should mention Justin Graves as well. I think the key thing here is I don't want people to fall into the trap of saying, there you go, we should just pick players who are on form. Django, obviously, and Graves had scored loads of runs in the List A tournament. I think they were 1 and 2 respectively in the most recent Super 50. But I think it's important that people differentiate between them being on form in the recent Super 50. Yes, that's correct. But they also had produced tournament after tournament. This wasn't a one-off tournament where West Indies picked Django based off, or I hope it's not, where they picked Django based off the form he had in Super 50, or Graves based off the form they had in Super 50. Both of them did well in the West Indies First Class Championship. Graves did well the last Super 50 before this one as well. Django did okay in the last tournament before this one as well. So I think it may also, the kind of key thing for me, Santokie, is hopefully this series has also laid out a bit of a blueprint to West Indies selectors to pick players who are consistently putting up numbers, not just wait for and we could touch on it, but this is where I had issues with them picking Jadier Blades, because he had a good Super 50. I think he took how many wickets at whatever it was, on certainly low 20s, but that's just one season. That's like when a Premiership team buys a striker who scored 25 goals in the Championship. Like, wait for it to be done again and again and again before you're bringing people into the senior side. What's your take on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think Jadier Blades was a strange one. He was certainly rushed in, but as you said, we gotta let him marinate. You know, players have to build up that consistency before they get their opportunity. Just touching on Shai Hope as well, it's interesting because not just in this series, in 2024 he's averaged 34 in ODI cricket. And we played tough series against Australia and Sri Lanka. But the year before he averaged 68. So it's interesting. He's basically, his average is chopped in half. And it can't be a coincidence that this year has coincided with him trying to put more into being a T20 player, changing a lot of his movement and shot points. So it'd be interesting to see next year because I'm assuming he's going to continue, you know, trying to get T20 fans. He's at the Big Bash at the moment. He's missing the T20 series. He's going to play in the UAE T20 league. So it'd be interesting to see how he can sort of regain his ODI form, bearing in mind the changes he's made in terms of his T20 skill set. So that's an interesting one. When, as you said, he's been a linchpin of the ODI side for so many years. And even though it's good to see other players score runs, we still need hope in the runs as well if we want to be a truly successful team. So that's one thing to keep an eye out. Just another thing, Mash, if we're talking about, we'll get into the performances now. We've seen recently, in recent years, Afanase, Casey Carty, and Django play ODI cricket first before them being put into the test arena. Just on Django, obviously he had a good 4-day season, and he done well in the Super 50 as well, one of the leading scorers. Now he scored a century on debut for the ODI cricket. Do you just think, obviously this is just speculation, but do you think this will cause selectors to push the red button and call him up for test cricket in Pakistan next month?
Well, Graves got in first and foremost into the Bangladesh Test series. Granted, Jason Holder was injured and Graves came in to fill that kind of all-rounder position. But if I was any of the West Indies top 7 minus Graves, I'd think, well, Django's just scored a century on debut. He's scored runs in first-class champs, scored runs in Super 50. Nobody is, what do I want to say here? Nobody's older pick, and I don't mean that for Django. I mean that for the incumbent players. If I was Josh De Silva, I might be panicking a tiny piece. I know Josh is vice captain, but I might be panicking a tiny piece that Django can wicket keep and Django is scoring runs, and he's currently in everybody's eye line. If I was well, no, in fairness, because Alex scored runs versus Bangladesh, his spot's probably all right. Casey Carty's yet to get a score in Test cricket, but you'd assume they stick with him. Mikael Louis is the one who's probably most under pressure, if we're talking about somebody in the top 6. But then, of course, Santokie, I've got to acknowledge it because I know the Guyanese will get in the comments if I don't. Imlak surely is the incumbent to get a pick, even though Django's just scored a century on debut. Like, would it be out of order if they called Django up to tour Pakistan, argument's sake, and Imlak was told to hold a drop?
No, I don't think so. I think in cricket, part of it is obviously you go on form, whether it be historic form or the last sort of tournament played. But a lot of it is played on momentum. If a player's in form, we've seen it with Australia. They had few experienced batters scoring well in the Sheffield Shield. They threw in Nathan McSweeney to the test side. Obviously, he's not doing well, but at the moment, but they threw him in because he had shown some sort of recent momentum. So with Django, the fact he did well in the 4-day regional season, building upon his Super 50 form, and bearing in mind, we don't play much regional cricket, so those are the only 2 tournaments we have to base it on. He's performing well, and then he's shown, in addition, that at an international level, he's not out of place. He scored a blistering century. So, I mean, it's still an outside chance for me, him getting called up, but I could also very much envision him jumping, leapfrogging Tevin Imlak, because Imlak hasn't played much cricket. He played in the Super 50. I forgot what his numbers were, but he wasn't in the top sort of radius like Django was. So I could very well envision it, but there, as you said, there will be a counter argument. I know Imlak's he sat on the bench for the England tour, the Australia tour. He's scored 55 in the regional season for the Harpy Eagles, averaged 55. So there is an argument for that. But with West Indies cricket match, it's always better to have more options than none, I'd say.
Yeah, and actually that line is critical if we kind of pivot it back to the ODI squad. What has happened in this ODI series versus Bangladesh is by Graves and Django looking like they may belong at the international level. It's not so much for me about should they be in the team, because obviously Hetty withdrew saying he was sick. Puran obviously hasn't played in about a year, if not more, in fact a year plus. 18 months almost. He hasn't played since the World Cup qualifiers. It's important for me that we just build up a wider squad. So I don't want anyone to get caught up by this kind of argument of, oh, should Django now play or should Graves always play? What about when Puran comes back? So don't even get into the minutiae of what about. It's about we need options, and it's about squad depth for me. And that's what Django's knock meant for me. It added squad depth. Now, but I will, Santokie, because I'm fairly certain there's people thinking it. Let's say, argument's sake, Nicholas Puran came back, whatever our next ODI engagement is. I don't know if it's Ireland in May next year, or if we've got someone before that. But let's just say, let's say there isn't someone before Ireland and England in May and June next year. Let's say Puran, for whatever reason, says, you know what, I'm back. I'm playing ODI cricket. I doubt it, but let's just say he does. Is there a spot for him in the team?
You make a spot for Pooran in the team.
That's right. Good. I'm glad you said that because that's my argument. My argument is you just make a spot. And if someone has to hold a drop, someone has to hold a drop. But there will be people saying, because Pooran's kind of essentially retired himself from ODI cricket for now, that he can't just walk back in. But my argument is Nicholas Pooran, he walks back in.
Yeah, I'd say probably. Yeah, Hetmeyer couldn't walk back into a side. Nicholas Pooran can definitely walk back into the side. People argue he hasn't played 50 over cricket in a while at international level, like you said, a year and a half. But we've seen one of the most, if not the most in-demand cricketer on the T20 franchise circuit. We know what he can do. The last tournament he played in, the World Cup qualifiers, he almost single-handedly tried to carry us to the World Cup with his performances. So we know what he can do at the back end of an innings. He can bat 3, he can bat 4, he can bat 7. He's versatile. He probably open in ODIs as well with Evan Lewis or something. So we know what he can do. So you make a spot for Nicholas Pooran if, and hopefully when he decides to make a return to ODI cricket.
Let me ask you this though, because this is something that may have gone under the radar about our ODI side. So I gave you the record at the start that our record for 2024 was played 12, won 6, lost 6. Our 6 victories, Santokie, have all come chasing. We did not win any game this year, batting first and then defending a total. We won a rain-shortened game, essentially it was like a T20 game in Sri Lanka. The 2 against England were done chasing, and all 3 against Bangladesh were done chasing. If you're Darren Sammy, what's your priority here? Is your priority, we just need to learn to win and forget the fact that we do it well, or we seem to only do it when we're chasing? Winning is a bigger priority than trying to win in more difficult scenarios for the team. So I guess what I'm saying to you is, are we at a point where we can test ourselves by trying to bat first and defend it? Or do we just pray that we win the toss and do what we're best at, which clearly is chasing, because we're nowhere near ready yet to even think about scenarios of winning?
Yeah, I think if you look at the World Cup qualifying exit, that was essentially the crumbling of the ODI side. Sammy said afterwards he's going to build his own side. So the remainder of 2023 is what you see as like the rubble of the ODI side. This year, 2024, I'm just taking it as the first steps of rebuilding. So for me, it's just about winning. It don't matter whether you chase or whether you bat. Just get winning in, build it into the team psychology, and then go from there. 2025 is when you can maybe in that island tour, you know, when you if you win the first ODI, maybe the second ODI, if you win the toss, you say, all right, we're going to bat first, test it out, because you kind of built that winning track. So I think this year, I'm happy for West Indies to just go for the win. As you said, there's ranking points at stake, and we know, Director of Cricket Miles Bascom and even the data analyst Avinash Sitaram, they're probably telling Sammy the sort of what he needs to do in each series, to get the relevant ranking points, what we need to do to kind of climb up. So I think Sammy will be looking at the rankings points. At the end of the day, if you're a head coach, if you're Sammy, you want to directly qualify for the World Cup. And then once you've done that, you can sort of think about, how our strategy and our formula. So I think he's going for the wins, but next year we might see some variations and then trying to bat first to set it, because it's been a West Indian problem for years now, particularly in T20 cricket as well. If we're chasing the target, we even saw, in the Pollard, the GOAT era, if we're set 230, most likely we'll chase that down. We've done it against South Africa a few times, I remember. Whereas if we have to build a total, we find it a lot trickier. So that's a problem we need to work on long term. But for now, Mash, I'm happy with us taking the wins. Like I said, we've been down bad for so long. I don't think at this point we can choose to be fussy about the nature of how we win. I think we just get the win at all costs. What's your opinion on that?
I think I have to agree, to be honest. I think we only crashed out of the World Cup qualifiers a year ago, in essence. I don't think we're in any position to be trying to win in different ways. Because, and again, I just go back to, in fact, actually, I should really throw this into the mix, Santokie. It's not like we've gone away and won anything. So arguably, even that's the next layer. Even before we can think about trying to set totals, the next layer is, but can we win outside of our own conditions? Because actually, if you look at our record so far, it's, I think we beat England last year as well, didn't we? At the back end of 2023. Did we beat India? Or did we? I swear we beat India as well. Was it? Or no, was that in the T20? Sorry.
We won 3-2 in the T20s. But
so that was the T20s. We lost in the ODIs. But we beat England last year in our own conditions, beat England this year in our own conditions, beat Bangladesh in our own conditions, but haven't We haven't yet proven that we can go outside of the Caribbean and play with this new identity, confidence, and culture and win series. So actually, I'm going to say, Santokie, that even before we think about trying to win and test ourselves doing stuff that we're not good at, we actually have to learn to win away from home. That comes even before trying to bat first.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think the next stage, if you're looking at stages, next one is away from home. I don't know who our first. Well, it'd be Ireland, I guess. And then build from there. So that like you said, Mash, I think it's just taking it in stages. I think it was important as well that you tweeted on our handle the other day that it's no coincidence that the last time we beat Bangladesh was just before the great when we withdrew from playing India in 2014. Because when we last beat Bangladesh, that was the last series before the India tour where the infamous kind of everything sort of blew up. So if you're looking at that squad, Mash, that played Bangladesh where we won 3-0, I'll just read it out quickly. Lendl Simmons, Chris Gale opening, Darren Barber at 3, Ramdin as wicketkeeper, Pollard, Sammy, Dwayne Bravo captain. The bowlers, you had Jason Holder, Sunil Narayan, Ravi Rampal, and Kimar Roach. Now that match was the last time I think all of them.
And then we blew up the whole thing.
That was the last time we would have. That was the last time we would, and that's not forgetting like Marlon Samuels didn't even play in that series, for instance. So that was the last time they all sort of played together as a cohort. So essentially, that Bangladesh series was a watershed moment because it was the end of an era. Ever since then, the following 10 years is how long it's taken us to rebuild, to try to get somewhere, Mash. And so it shows you kind of how down bad we've been and what struggle it's been down to that one event that took place in India.
100%. Listen, the final thing we'll discuss, Santokie, and then we'll call this episode to a close. The bowling. Now, I am not sold on the bowling yet. When I pulled the figures for 2024, so in this series, Bangladesh scored against us. In the second ODI, we skittled them out for 227, but in the first one, they put up 294 for 6. Granted, we chased that down. Last one, they put up 321 for 5. And again, granted, we chased that down. But yes, this is Bangladesh's stronger suit or want a better suit for them. But I worry about our bowling attack versus very good teams. Even England, there's an argument to say, but England sent over an experimental side like Bethel and Mousley and Bearman getting debuts in that ODI series in the Caribbean, right? So when I pulled the bowling numbers, Santokie, just quickly read them to you for 2024. Alzari Joseph, 15 wickets at 28, economy 6. Multi, 15 wickets at 32, economy 4.7. Matthew Ford, 10 wickets at 25, economy 5.3. Romario Shepherd, 8 wickets at 39, economy 5.7. Jaden Seals, 7 wickets at 38, economy 5.7. Roston Chase, 5 wickets at 78, economy 5.4. O'Shane Thomas, 2 wickets at 40, economy 8.1. And I didn't even include Shamar Joseph because he only played one game. What that basically tells you, Santokie, is we have 3 bowlers. 3 bowlers that and that's not me saying that Romario Shepherd and Jaden Seals can't do something, but when I say 3 bowlers, I mean 3 proven bowlers across the year who you would expect to contribute across 10 overs in an ODI match. Matthew Ford, Alzari Joseph, Gudakesh Moti. And the reality is, Santokie, you can't win many matches outside of, so we're talking about winning outside of our own conditions. We're talking about taking it to the better teams. We're talking about winning whilst batting first. You actually can't win that many matches if you've only got 3 bowlers that at current we think we can rely on.
Yeah, I agree 100%. In an ideal world, you'd have Shamar Joseph and Jaden Seals performing at that level as well. So you'd have a complement of bowlers. But as you said, Mash, if you're looking at consistently throughout the year, it's those 3 bowlers. We know Alzari as well Alzari's the main strike bowler. But again, in terms of death bowling as well, my main concern, Mash, is, as you said, playing a good side. Because realistically, obviously, we tried to keep it positive this episode because it's a 3-0 series win. But as you said, Mash, England you could argue, I mean, not even an argument. They sent an experimental side out for both years. And Bangladesh, they're a strong side. But when we're talking a good side, we're talking, in India, South Africa, Australia. I just can see our bowling attack falling apart. We've seen it so many times over the years. So there's always that caution, Mash, that, our bowling's not going to be consistent enough to hold over 50 overs. But maybe that's where are you going to get where's the next cohort coming through? Are they just, it's the age-old argument. Do you just throw man in from the academy like a Jediah Blades and just say, you know what, take a few licks for a year, and then hopefully in a year you'll be ready for the international stage, because it's not like we've got a factory line of fast bowlers emerging at the moment in white ball cricket.
Yeah, and to be fair, let's give Jaden Seals his due. I think in the first match or second match it may have been, I think he took 4 for 22. So it's important that we acknowledge that Jaden probably will come good at some point, but it's just taking him a while to make that transition from red ball cricket to white ball cricket. And hopefully, like you say, he becomes a genuine strike bowler in that format, but he's not there yet. And all the while he's not there yet, and Romario Shepherd he's either very good or ordinary. Like, you just look at it and go, like, if I'm Darren Sammy and Avanesh and Floyd Reeve and Franklin and all the backroom lot, what I'm saying to myself, Santokie, is I'm thinking, right, good year. We found Shafane Rutherford. He's settled. Evan Lewis is back. He's settled. We know we got Pooran in the hutch ready to come back at some point in time. Shai Hope is the GOAT in the format. Carty's upped his strike rate. You're looking at your batting and you're going, yeah, we can work with this. I think their next focus for 2025 has to be, God, we need to... Like, the fact that Blades got called up, Santokie, actually, really, when we think about it, tells you that they acknowledge the bowling's a problem. Yeah. Because if the bowling wasn't a problem, there's no way on earth Blades would be getting a call up. Because you'd have a bag of man ahead of him before you even think about looking at someone like Jediah Blades.
Yeah, I agree, and it's ironic. It's basically the opposite of what we face in a test format where our batting's struggling. But as well, for someone like Jaden Seals, who's still young, don't forget he's just 23, but he seems like he's been playing for ages. His focus is definitely on red ball cricket, which is good for West Indies cricket. So inevitably, it means white ball cricket, we might not see the best of him in the coming years or so, because his focus is, at Sussex, he plays red ball cricket. He's a staple in the test side. So again, we can't ask too much of Jaden Seals if we want him to be premier in both formats. It's going to be unlikely. I'd say his focus is on test cricket, which is fair enough. And like you said, Mash, we can focus on the positive. Shafane Rutherford, he's someone, he played for West Indies briefly before the pandemic. During the pandemic, Mash, he never even came on the radar for us as a West Indies club. He just disappeared. We saw him playing in franchise cricket. He won the IPL. He won the PSL. There was no interviews of him about wanting to play for West Indies. So it's a credit to Sammy and the coaching staff that they managed to lure him back in from the wilderness to play ODI cricket. And for someone who's basically exclusively played T20 cricket for the last 5-6 years, for him to hit like a century against Bangladesh off 80 balls and then do what he did in the Sri Lanka series, for instance, it's a credit to him that he's been able to adjust to the longer format. And it does show, that the players who we see as, T20 specialists can adapt to longer formats. And as you said, Evan Lewis back, Brandon King here, 86 in one of the ODIs. So, promising signs in terms of the batting. As you said, Mash, it's just about refining the bowling. And that's probably on our wish list for 2025. Big up Moti as well, because Moti's definitely been working on the batting skills.
100. You see, when I saw Moti like slapping the ball all over the place in the final ODI, what came to mind was, in my head, I was like, has Moti always been able to bat? I mean, he's got a first-class century. Or is Moti thinking to himself, boy, for me to get them T20 bags, I need to add an extra suit, because spinners are... and Moti's King Moti, but spinners are also 10 a penny, and a lot of these leagues don't like to pick overseas spinners when they're 10 a penny. So do you think it's Moti making himself more marketable, or is just working on his batting in general?
No, I think 100%. I think the franchise thing would have came into his mind. He's always been an accomplished batter, but I think in the last 6 months we've seen him attacking. He's obviously been working on his range hitting, and it wasn't even like a tail ender innings where they're just slogging it and it's edging off. He was planning where he was going. He was getting backlift. So he's obviously worked very well on his batting. I think, as you said, Mash, hit the nail on the head. If you want to get the big bag, the IPL bag, unless you're a once in a lifetime overseas spinner like a Sunil Narayan, you're not going to get a deal unless even Sunil Narayan had to add bat into his repertoire. So I think Moti's looked at him and thought, I'm a very good spin bowler, but the IPL's in India where they've got a surplus of spin bowlers. What can I do to take myself to game to the next level? Maybe his agency or his team around him have advised him. So he's been working on it. And as we saw for West Indies at the death, it paid off. So it's good to see Moti add that to his repertoire.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, the fact is, he came in ahead of Romario Shepherd, who's known as a late order power hitter. And the fact that they sent Moti, they're probably left hand, right hand, but the fact they sent Moti tells you where his batting is probably at. Who knows, Santokie? Maybe one day we'll see Moti pinch hitting at the top of the order for West Indies. Certainly in T20. I wouldn't rule it out, I wouldn't.
You know what, Mash? Just to finish off, we obviously got the T20 series starting in about 3 hours. Well, as of recording, about 3 hours time. By the time this drops, it will probably have already started. Interestingly enough, Andre Fletcher, I'm not sure if it's been confirmed or rumored to have come in.
Yeah, no, he's in.
He's into the side. It begs the question, especially with ODI cricket as well. What's happened to Carl Mayers? What's going on with Carl Mayers and the board? Because we've seen every other player in the region been given another chance. Carl Mayers is not as if he was abysmal on an abysmal run of form. He's always been handy, he can bat and bowl. We've essentially seen him disappear from West Indies setup now. So it'd be interesting to kind of get clarification on if he's made himself unavailable. Was there been an issue with the board? Because I do think Carl Mayers, as a backup opener or someone, who can bowl as well, 5-6 overs in ODI cricket, as you said, if we're looking at building squad depth, it's worth him giving another shot at some point.
Yeah, I can't remember where he is. I think he's in one of them down bad T10 leagues at this moment in time, whether Nepal or Sri Lanka or something. So I think once you're in the down bad T10 circuit, I don't think coming back to West Indies cricket is a priority, to be honest. And I just have to assume that, but I think it's a combination of I'm going to maximize my bag. Carl's 32 now. I'm going to maximize my bag, and also West Indies may not be reaching out to him too tough. So in that scenario, if you're him, maximize your earnings, I guess.
Yeah, he was playing in the Abu Dhabi T10 League, otherwise known as the Kenar Lewis Special. So the T10 cricket. So as you said, Mash, once you get to that level, I know there's been a few players playing in the Nepal T10 League as well. I guess you get stuck in them up, but it's a shame to see because Carl Mayer's multi-format player has always been a talent, and it's a shame to see him sort of be discarded. Hopefully 2025 we see him in West Indies colours as well, just as you said, to add that squad depth. But Mash, as we said, T20 series starts, 3 T20s in St. Vincent. We'll be sure to do a review video in the coming days, and we'll have the great Fazir Mohammed on in the coming days. We'll talk about, we haven't finalized the topic, but we're sure to have something exciting lined up. So keep an eye out on Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Follow us on, let me take a deep breath for this, Instagram, X, TikTok, Discord, Patreon if you can donate, patreon.com/Caribbean Cricket, Facebook for all the uncles out there on Facebook, and what's the other one?
Blue Sky.
Oh, Blue Sky. You know what, Mash? I feel bad because I got Mash to sign up to Blue Sky. I was like, yeah, this is good. This is the future. And then it's kind of dropped off, Mash.
Yeah, it's dead out here. It's really dead. But we're there. Listen, we're there all the same. But listen, as Santokie says, people, stay tuned for the content, T20 series, etc. More and more stuff coming out. And see you all very, very soon.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.